and welcome. In this video, we will briefly discuss the meaning and the application of the independent variable and the dependent variable. By controlling them, researchers can draw conclusions about the relationships between the two, making the study more reliable and meaningful. For the clinical researcher, collaboration with a research team is required as variables can change roles in different contexts. The statistician is an important part of the research team, and they can help to ensure that the study is methodologically sound, that the results are valid, and the conclusions drawn are based on robust and reliable data. The statistician will ensure that the transparent reporting is being conducted and the results are being communicated clearly. There are many types of studies where you will need to define the independent and the dependent variables. These studies include experimental studies, for example, testing the effect of different types of fertilizers on plant growth, quasi-experimental studies, for example, comparing the academic performance of students who choose different extracurricular activities, observational studies, like studying the correlation between physical activity and cardiovascular health, correlational studies, investigating the relationship between stress levels and the quality of sleep, longitudinal studies, for example, analyzing and assessing how educational attainment influences career success over several years, cross-sectional studies, analyzing the relationship between age and technology usage in a population, or case control studies investigating the relationship between smoking and lung cancer. Clinicians who are interested in research will need independent and dependent variables if they are performing controlled experiments where the researcher will manipulate the independent variable and measure its effect on the dependent variable while controlling other factors. Clinical trials where you may want to test the efficacy of a new drug on patient health outcomes. Behavioral studies investigating how different stimuli affect behavior. And educational research examining the impact of teaching methods on student performance. Independent variables are defined as a factor that is intentionally changed or manipulated by the researcher to observe its effect on the dependent variable. It is a variable that is controlled and varied by the researcher to test its impact on the outcome. An example is a study examining the effect of temperature on plant growth. Here, temperature is the independent variable, and the researcher controls and varies the temperature to observe its impact on plant growth. A dependent variable is also known as the outcome variable. It is a factor which is being measured or observed in response to the changes made to the independent variable. The researcher measures the dependent variable to see how it responds to the changes made to the independent variable. For example, in the same plant growth study, plant growth, which is either measured in height, is the dependent variable. The researcher measures plant growth in response to the changes in temperature, which is the independent variable. Apart from the dependent and independent variable, we may have covariate variables and even confounding variables. A covariate is a variable that is related to both the independent variable and the dependent variable in a statistical analysis. In other words, it is a variable that can influence the relationship between the independent and the dependent variables. Examples can be age, gender, pre-treatment scores, temperature, humidity, and personality traits. Now let us see how we can use the definitions and our understanding of independent and dependent variables in a study on induced labor. The actual definition will depend upon the research question, but the possible variables can be as follows. Dependent or outcome variables for a study on induced labor may include successful induction, which means defined as vaginal delivery within a specified time frame after induction, duration of labor, time from induction to delivery, the mode of delivery, whether it ended as a vaginal delivery or cesarean section, what were the neonatal outcomes, and what was the maternal outcome in terms of either level of pain or satisfaction with the birthing experience or postpartum complications. And the independent variables for this study could include the method of induction, which means type of induction agent or technique used, the gestational age at the time of the induction of labor, the Bishop's score as measured at the start of the induction, the parity, maternal age, fetal position, amniotic fluid index. Other variables for a study on induced labor may include covariates such as maternal medical conditions, for example, hypertension or diabetes, fetal anomalies, or other factors that could influence the outcome. Confounding variables could also affect the relationship between the independent and the dependent variables, and these could be hospital policies or provider experience. Let us move on to another topic which is seen in obstetrics, puerperal psychosis. Independent variables for a study on puerperal psychosis could include history of mental health conditions, example depression, anxiety, social support network, infant care stress, hormonal changes, whereas dependent variables could include the development of postpartum psychosis, severity of postpartum psychosis, duration of postpartum psychosis, and response to treatment. There may be some confounding variables or some covariate variables for a study on puerperal psychosis, and these may include age, parity, history of previous postpartum psychosis, and family history of mental health conditions. Sleep disturbances, breastfeeding status, partner support, socioeconomic status, and medical complications during pregnancy or delivery. Another important topic for research in gynecology is endometrial cancer. And the independent variables for a study on endometrial cancer may include the use of hormonal replacement therapy in postmenopausal women, the use of oral contraception in premenopausal women, the body mass index, and the level of physical activity. Whereas the dependent variables may include development of endometrial cancer, the stage of the tumor at which the cancer is detected, the grade of the tumor, and the survival rate. Confounding variables may include age, menopausal status, a family history of endometrial cancer, or a history of other medical conditions, for example, diabetes and hypertension. Covariate variables for the study on endometrial cancer may include progesterone receptor status, which may be positive or negative, the estrogen receptor status, and the HER receptor status, which is the human epidermal response factor 2, lymph node involvement, adjuvant therapy use. So in summary, we can say that the independent and the dependent variables will establish cause and effect relationships, will isolate the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable, will reduce the confounding variable's impact, will increase the study's internal validity, and allow for data analysis. The statistician will have an important role in helping to ensure that the study is methodologically sound and the results are valid and the conclusions drawn are based on robust and reliable data. With this, we come to the end of the video. If you like the video, then please subscribe to the channel, press the like button, send your comments, especially your ideas about what you would like to see in this channel, and share the video with colleagues and friends. And don't forget to press the bell icon so you can be notified of future publications. Thank you and goodbye.